An NBA star who was one of his teammates in the Italian League. I think he could still go for 20, maybe 25 a game. Hall of Famer Bob McAdoo.
I've had the privilege of playing with some great players in my career. Walt Frazier and Earl Monroe with the Knicks, Tiny Archibald and Dave Cowens with the Celtics, Bob Lanier with the Pistons, two of my teammates, ex-teammates, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, and James Worthy with the Lakers, Moses Malone, Julius Erving, Charles Barkley with the 76ers, and the last stop in my professional career in Italy with Dino Meneghin. And Dino certainly belongs up here with the rest of these players. Before I played my first game in Italy, I heard about the reputation and legend of Dino Meneghin. I was so impressed that I gave up my number 11 jersey to Dino. And I had only given it up one other time in my career, and that was at an All-Star game to the great Elvin Hayes. Dino Meneghin has had an extraordinary career. His qualifications for the Hall of Fame are overwhelming. He is Italy's greatest basketball player ever. He played 28 years in Italy's top division from age 16 to age 44. In 1970, at age 20, he was drafted by the NBA's Atlanta Hawks, becoming the first international player ever drafted. He holds the individual player record for the most Italian championships won with 12. He took Italy to 4 Olympic Games in 4 tries, starting with the 72 Olympics in Munich, 76 Olympics in Montreal, 80 Olympics in Moscow, where the Italian team upset the host USSR team in the semifinals and ended up winning the silver medal, and the 84 Olympics in Los Angeles. In 1970, he helped guide the Italian national team to their first win ever over the United States team in the World Championships. He won the gold in the 1983 European World Championships. He played 16 straight years on the Italian national team. He won the Grand Slam of Europe a record 3 times. This means winning all 4 championships, the Italian Cup, the Italian Championship, the Intercontinental Cup, and the European Championships in the same season. I was fortunate enough to win one of those Grand Slams with him in 1987, and I can vouch for how difficult it is. Nobody else in Europe, except his teammates, have ever accomplished this feat. He was voted Europe's Player of the Year in 1980. In 1991, he was named Europe's greatest player of all time. Statistics are usually the numbers that qualify a player for the Hall of Fame. Yes, Dino could score, but that was not his game. He played not to pile up stats, but to win, period. He did whatever was essential to winning. If you needed a defensive stop, Dino was the guy that you put on their top scorer. If you needed a crunching screen, Dino set it. He was a very unselfish passer. Even if you needed a basket, he would hit a timely basket. Rebounding was where he was at his best. It's where he dominated. He was the ultimate winner and the greatest winner in European basketball. What I remember about Dino was his intensity in practice. He treated every practice like it was a European final or an Olympic game. Plus, he was always there in my 4 years to help the American players fit in. If you ask European coaches to pick one player to start a team, Dino would be the man. As an opponent, he was feared above all others. As a player, he was the franchise. Fast, tough, rebounder, passer, defender, shot blocker, screener, champion, a true champion. Dino was a pleasure and a joy to play with you for the 4 years in Milan and to experience the few championships out of the many that you were a part of. I am most honored and proud to introduce Italy's greatest player ever, Dino Meneghin.
Dino, get right here. Okay? Mac on the other side, right on the other side. Dino Meneghin. Europe's gain was certainly our loss. In today's world, you would have been drafted at 18, played 16 years in the NBA, and been a household name. Instead, you became perhaps the greatest player ever in European history in the great international game. And tonight, you rightfully take your place among the best and the brightest in this game. By virtue of the vote of the Honors Committee and by the power vested in the Board of Trustees, I am privileged to induct you as a player into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame with all rights and privileges. Congratulations.
First of all, thank you, Bob. Now I know because I set all those screens for you. Ladies and gentlemen, Hall of Fame members and honored guests, I'm going to try to express my feelings about the honor you have awarded me. I'm humbled, and for many reasons. I feel that I'm not here today alone. I feel that I am here as one of the pioneers of European basketball. The Hall of Fame has rightly recognized three other such pioneers: Sergei Belov of USSR, Krasimir Čosić of Croatia, and Dražen Petrović of Croatia. I faced all of them, and all were champions. I'm also here because of the help of my coaches. Nico Messina was the man that first saw me when I was competing only in track and field, in the weights. He may not have been a UB Brown as a technician, but the Tiger. The Tiger told me to do everything in life and sports with great enthusiasm. He could also extract blood from the turnip with his fire. Then, as a Nikolic, a Hall of Fame coach who coached me with Ines Alvarez for 4 years, 1969 to 1973. He taught me the importance of being a professional, of hard work, of physical conditioning, of game preparation, of the mental aspect of the game, and the importance of execution. With the professors, as Nikolic was called, I also learned how to compete at the top level. In those 4 years, we won 3 Italian titles, 3 Italy Cups, 3 European Cups, and 2 Intercontinental Cups. In 2 of those years, 1970 and 1973, we won all 4-2 Grand Slam season. I then had Alessandro Gamba, a Hall of Fame nominee at Varese for the next 4 years. Coach Gamba kept us on the winning track. In 4 years, we won 2 European titles and were second twice. Won 2 Italian titles and were second twice. Winning became a habit, and I liked the habit. Coach Gamba put great emphasis on team play and taking responsibility for one's work, in practice and in the game. He stressed setting perfect screens and holding those screens until the teammate was free to receive the pass. He was also a defensive coach and introduced me to the help and recover. Parallel this time, I had Giancarlo Primo as the coach of Italian national team. He was not the first coach to call me to the Azzurri, the blue team. That was Nello Operatore in the '66 when I was 16. But Primo was the first to coach me in the Europeans, in the Worlds, and the Olympic Games. Primo stressed the defense, and he convinced me this is the way to win the games. He also took us the Italy's greatest victory up to that time, our first win ever against the USA in the World Championship in Ljubljana in Yugoslavia in 1970. We have done something that we thought was impossible. Coach Gamba then took over for Primo in the 1980 Olympics. With him, we did the impossible twice. In 1980, we took the silver medal in the Olympics, upsetting the USSR in Moscow. In the 1983, we beat Spain for the gold medal in the Europeans. Italy's first gold ever in a major competition. I had coached Dan Peterson here with me today for 6 years with Olympia of Milan, where we won 4 Italian titles and a Grand Slam of final year. He stressed simplicity on the floor, and he also convinced me that I could prolong my career more than just a couple of years. In fact, I played for 13 more years. At the end of my career, I had Bogdan Boshatanovic for 3 years in Trieste. He brought me not just to play, but to teach the younger players. Two of those players went to be voted the #1 player in Europe, Gregor Fuchka in 1999 and Bodiroga in 2001. And I like to think that I helped them. I'm still in the national team now. My team now is playing the European Championship in Sweden, where I have to go back tomorrow night. And the blue team today unfortunately lost by 10 points. As I tried to learn from those great coaches, I also tried to study the opposing coaches, and I faced many. No one has to explain to me what a great coach means on his team. These men had team that played hard and had an identity and played with no fear. And those coaches controlled the game. Alexandre Gomelsky, in a Hall of Fame inductee, I faced him many times. He played in the CSKA Moscow club team in 3 European Cup finals, winning twice. We played the USSR in the 1980 Olympics in the semifinal, winning 87-85. Of course, he won in the Worlds and the Europeans. Gomelsky made me understand that I would have to play differently from long rebounds. And his team shot from long range. I knew that I had to guard a big man differently, as he used at 7'4" Vladimir Tachenko inside. And I knew I have to vary my positioning against him. Sometimes it worked. Antonio Diaz-Miguel is another Hall of Fame coach. When he played Spain, we knew we were in for a game that was based on speed, quickness, and the fast break. Like other teams, we tried to slow them down, but it didn't work. So you had to turn all the time up the floor and back. His teams always had a guard that would penetrate and force me to help, such as Juan Antonio Corbalan. I had to help, but avoid fouls. I learned that footwork and position were crucial in that. If I made a mistake in either of them, it was a foul and I would risk fouling out for the game. Cesare Rubini, another Hall of Fame coach at the Cimentel of Milan, and I was at Varese. We faced them in one-game playoffs to decide the Italian championship 3 straight years, 71, 72, and 73. Our coach, of course, was Asa Nikolic. They were battles between Hall of Fame coach. When I played Rubini's team, Cimental team, we knew that nothing less than 100% would win the game. You could not make a mistake against them. They capitalized on every error. They were also mentally tough and played together as well as any teams I ever faced as a player. Even coaches I faced, just one made an impression on me, like Hall of Fame coach Hank Haiba, or for the USA in the 1972 Olympics. And we lost to the US in the semifinals 68-38, and I don't think I touched the ball more than once on offense an entire game. So there was a lesson in team defense. In 1976 Olympics, we faced Hall of Fame coach Dean Smith's US team and lost under 6-86. I could tell Smith was a great coach by the way he used his entire 12-man roster with a systematic method of substitution. They just wore us down, and I learned that even the key players need a rest. One big regret that I have is that we did not face the USA in the Hall of Fame coach Bob Knight and Michael Jordan in 1984 Olympics. Could we have beaten them? Probably not, but in Europe, the important thing is to measure yourself against the very best, and I wanted to measure myself against them. Other coaches I faced just once also taught me something. We faced Hall of Fame coach Larry Brown in exhibition game, and I could see he was a great bench coach, as he had an immediate answer for anything we tried to do, even in a game like that. And I was definitely impressed. I also tried to learn from the opposite players. I mentioned Sergei Belov. He was on those CSKA teams and the USSR teams coached by Gomelsky. He was a master at using screens to get open. I knew I could help my teammates if I set a screen like they did for Belov. He was, of course, a great shooter. I mentioned Krasimir Čosić. I was always assigned to guard him. Our team has good success against this other club team, and we never lost. But this Yugoslavia team had our number. He was a challenge because he was different than any pivot man I ever faced. In fact, he was not a pivot man at all, but a high post player. I copied that and learned to play in a high post on occasion more every year near the end of my career. I saw that Čosić from here there had a better look at the court and could find his teammates easier with passes, and I liked that idea. I mentioned Drazen Petrovic. No, I didn't guard him directly, and I'm happy to say that. My first game against him in the Cup of Champions in '86, he scored 47 on us. We helped him in 16, we held him to 16 in the return match, but I knew that he was the first European that could have great success in the NBA. I faced Bill Walton in those 1970 World Championship, and I could not believe what poise he had for someone just 18. I was 20, but he seemed much older and more experienced. It was his passing that impressed me so much. Even in the low post, he saw the opposite side on the floor, and I liked that. I played against Bill Laimbeer in Italy's A1 in 79-80 season, and he was more of an inside player back than just before going to the NBA. What impressed me was the way he moved inside and outside, 2 dimensions. Twice as hard for me to guard, that's for sure. We faced Spencer Haywood, team from Venice, in the first round in 80-81, and they won in the A2 division. He was probably the most versatile player I have ever faced. I knew I had to keep improving to become an even more complete player, and luckily, I did not guard him. We played an exhibition game against Julius Erving in 1981, and Coach Speedon said each of us should have the honor of guarding Dr. J at least for one play, and he dunked on me. Finally, George Gerving. George Gerving, when he played in Rome in 1986, 87, I didn't guard him, and I'm so lucky. I would like to believe that I did my part just as Sergei Belov, Čosić, and Petrovic did in helping elevate the level of playing in European to where it is today, when there are NBA scouts at every event, and many Europeans are playing the NBA. I'm often asked if I could have played in the NBA. We'll never know. I was going to try in '74, but the knee operation stopped that. Still, I want to thank Marty Blake, who drafted me. He also drafted my teammate in Varese, Manuel Raga from Mexico, who I think will have made in the NBA. Back then, I'm finished. Back then, we didn't do a thorough job of keeping records of game of films. So documenting my career is difficult for those of you that did not see me to play. But I can describe the type of player I try to be, a team player. Statistics means nothing to me. Winning means everything, everything. To do that, I felt I had to do 2 things: improve every day in practice, play hard every time in games, and I often tried to do hard, having 11 operations for various injuries. But as I was not the tallest center, as just 6'9", I felt I had to overcompensate by trying harder, playing harder, and riding harder. I said I tried to be the ultimate team player. I have neglected to mention my teammates so far. As you know, Bob McAdoo, of course, and I never played with anyone better. Bob helped me to my 3rd Grand Slam in Milano. Play with a guy like that is a pleasure, even in practice, which were worse. I mentioned Manuel Raga. And in Milano, I played with great players, starting from Mike D'Antoni, assistant coach in Phoenix Sun, John Gianelli, Earl Curiton, Antoine Carr, Joe Carroll, and Russ Sherry. And I learned something from them every day. So I'm happy to be here, not just as Dino Meneghin. Understand, I'm happy and honored to be here for myself. I have a great sense of pride and satisfaction, but also of humility, because I know who is in the Hall of Fame. I also have a newfound sense of responsibility. I am a Hall of Famer, and people look at that. With that, I'm here not just for myself, but for all my teammates and coaches that helped me to every step on the way. And for the great players and coaches I faced along the way who made me play my best and improve just to stay even with them. And I'm here for Italian basketball and European basketball, my home. Finally, I want to thank the voters and selection committee who elected me to this honor. You didn't just look at the stats. Others have much better numbers than I do. You didn't measure me by that. You saw the whole picture, and I am deeply moved that you recognize that in my play in all my career. I jumped it over. Thank you to everybody. Finally, I want to thank all my family, my mom and dad that are looking at me from the sky, my brother Renzo, my son Andrea, and my lovely wife Caterina. Thank you very much.